We have a massive Canucks trade update with one report revealing wild details, leaving the Canucks wondering who their next target will be with a huge offseason ahead for this organization. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first, if you're enjoying this Canucks content and you want to stay up to date along with the 7,050 subscribers that we already have, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates when they drop. And with that, let's hop straight into the first topic of the day, which is a wild trade report. So we all know the trade deadline was a very quiet one for the Vancouver Canucks and general manager Patrik Allvin, as he held on to pending unrestricted free agents Brock Boeser, Pius Suter, and Derek Forbort in hopes of a push towards the Stanley Cup playoff berth. Ultimately, that did not happen as the Canucks were mathematically eliminated 1 week before the end of the regular season, leaving many fans to wonder what moves Patrik Allvin could have made at the deadline. According to Patrick Johnston of the province, the Vancouver Canucks had talks with the Ottawa Senators surrounding a Filip Hronek for Josh Norris trade before the deadline on March 7th. And the full quote here from the province is this. If you want to pause it and take a read, you can go right ahead, but I'll read it here for you as well. He says, "I know that around the trade deadline, we all knew that they were kicking tires on Josh Norris, and I'm pretty sure at one point they were talking about trying to maybe flip Filip Hronek the other way. Hronek has been a good player, but even when he's been healthy, he's not a guy that teams are banging on the door for, and now he's coming off of another concussion. One that we feared may have been just the last of his career and he would just be done. But while the Vancouver Canucks held on to Hronek, the Senators didn't do the same with Josh Norris, as they eventually dealt him to the Buffalo Sabres, as we all know, in exchange for Dylan Cousins, and it's safe to say that their general manager is pretty happy he opted out of the trade. Hronek managed to appear in 15 games for the Canucks before suffering a concussion during a game mid-March against the Chicago Blackhawks, following a hit from former Canucks forward Jason Dickinson, which, of course, as we all know, there was no suspensions handed out for it, and Filip Hronek was done for the year. So this is a thing where it's very interesting that the Canucks apparently were wanting to move Hronek right after he had just gotten to Vancouver. They were just trying to see, okay, we got a good asset for him, and it was almost like they traded JT Miller to get some trade bait and then try and upgrade from there. They took a bit of a downgrade with losing JT Miller, so they tried to flip that into something that could be a gap filler. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and this was something that I don't think anybody could have predicted, and it's crazy that it's just coming out now, where after the trade deadline, it's surprising that something like this didn't come out as something that could have been for the Canucks, but now finding this out after the season is over, it's pretty interesting looking back on it, seeing what could have been for the Canucks. Now, am I saying that I'm happy that we didn't trade or am I saying that I'm happy that we have Filip Hronek? Absolutely, I'm happy that we have him. I think he was someone that was starting to blossom very much so before he got injured for the Canucks, and I'm very excited to see what he does next season. However, looking at the possibility of what we could have gotten for that, it's not too bad of an option, especially when considering that the Canucks are needing to improve that center core, and we know that it's not going to be fully deep enough to go on a cup run. So what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think that you guys would have rather seen Filip Hronek traded for Josh Norris, or are you happy that we ultimately stuck with Filip Hronek, even though it brought an season-ending injury, and now we have to look forward to next season as far as seeing him back on the ice again? And it would have been nice to see him for those last few games, but what do you guys have to say down in the comments? Let us know what you guys think about this. Would you rather have had Hronek, or would you rather have had Norris? Let us know what you guys have to say about it, but that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is who is the next target? So we know Patrik Allvin, as in an interview with Ian McIntyre in April, was saying, we have some really good building blocks here with the young players in the pipeline. I'm pleased with our goalie situation. I'm pleased with our back end. Our focus here is to see if we can improve our forwards group by either trades or free agents. So with this Canucks center core, we have Elias Pettersson, we have Pius Suter, we have Teddy Blueger, and now Filip Hronek. But that gap between 2 and 3 and 4 is a big gap. Elias Pettersson, Pius Suter, very solid centers. Those guys we're going to be happy to have back. But then you look at Teddy Blueger and Filip Hronek. Are those guys going to be enough to trust throughout those 82 games to make sure you have the depth for it? Teddy Blueger is a very solid center, but if you bump him down to the fourth line and you're able to bring in somebody that can go onto that third line, that would be a lot better, or even up to the second line and put Suter down at the third one, where he was able to catch teams off guard at times when he was on that last season and a little bit this season. He kind of bounced between second and third line a lot of the past 2 seasons, so it's not an unusual spot for him to be in if it is needed, or if you're trying to rotate the lineup every so often and give different sets of wingers for him. But it is something that I would be interested to see the Canucks try and do, because when you look at the free agents, yes, we know we talked about Filip Hronek, but with bringing Filip Hronek back, I don't entirely think you trade him just yet. You want to see if he can kind of bump up his stock a bit more. But when we're looking at the free agents that we have available, obviously John Tavares is a big one. I don't think he's going to be leaving Toronto. But the one that I'm looking at here is the only one on this list that is an RFA. So the Canucks would have to give up some draft capital for it, but that is Gabe Vilardi. And I think Gabe Vilardi, as much as he's not that great in the face-off circle, he is somebody who can get some points going. He's very young as well. Not a lot of experience, but that's something that can be good on this Canucks team where we are a younger team. We're kind of just generated towards creating a faster, more limber team and not having a bunch of old veterans. However, that said, I do want to see some veterans on this team at some point. Yeah, you do have Quinn Hughes, who is becoming a veteran, but he's still the star player. He needs that mentor type of player. And yes, when we're looking at some of these ages, some of these guys are really old. You got Brock Nelson, who just went to Colorado, so they're probably not going to want to get rid of him just yet. They're probably going to want to extend him. Claude Giroux, he's getting up there in age as well. Don't know how many years he's got left. Granlund wouldn't be a bad option, I don't think. But then you have Sam Bennett as well as the one that a lot of people might want to jump to. And I would definitely be one of those people. Last offseason, we did kind of throw him out there as someone we would love to see come to Vancouver as that center gap to fill in. It didn't happen, but now they have a chance to go out and do that this offseason. So I definitely think as far as those guys on the list, Sam Bennett, as far as a UFA, you go out and try and get that get him at the end of their playoff run. Probably not in a cup run with the way the playoffs are going right now. It's been a crazy ride through the playoffs. Sadly, Vancouver is not in it. Hopefully we'll be in it next year. But with that, you can go and poach Sam Bennett from Florida. Maybe you can even get Gabe Vilardi from Winnipeg. However, it would bring a lot of draft capital you'd have to get rid of. He is relatively young, so that would bring at least 2 draft picks or a draft pick and a prospect for it. Would be interesting to see what the dynamics or the specifics of that trade would be. So stay tuned for that as a potential video in the near future coming up. As far as a full explanation as to what the details could be going for a guy like Vilardi, or if he would be a guy that fits in Vancouver, because yes, he can produce points, but can he be efficient in the face-off circle? That is a big thing for Vancouver this season. So when we're looking at these centers that we want to bring in, whether it's through a trade that is of someone who is currently signed or one of these upcoming UFAs or one RFA with the case of Gabe Vilardi, that is something that Vancouver has to look at is face-off circle efficiency. Since JT Miller left, that has been one of the biggest glaring holes in our center depth is, yes, Elias Pettersson, he was starting to get very well in the face-off circle, but he got hurt. And when he gets hurt, you have to rely on Pius Suter and Teddy Bluger to win face-offs, and those guys weren't exactly getting it done. There were some games where Suter was a lot better in the circle than others, but you're going to have those types of games. It's naturally going to happen where guys are going to have off nights, or there's going to be nights where they're really locked in and all absolutely dominant in the face-off circle. So, face-off efficiency, that is the thing that Vancouver needs to look at. You want to get point scorers. You want to get guys that will create opportunities. Don't get me wrong. You want to have guys that will produce. But producing in the face-off circle is something critical, especially when we saw so many goals happen against the Canucks this season where it was a face-off in our defensive zone. The opposing team won the face-off draw and scored right off the face-off. And it was something that we just cannot continue to have happen. And what's a way of ensuring that? You go get a guy who is an absolute unit in the face-off circle, who you can plug in on that second or third line. Third line could catch teams off guard, especially if he's usually a top 6 center. However, you go out and get a guy that will dominate in the face-off circle, and that will lead to a lot more production on the other end. Because if you got a guy who can win the face-offs very much more often than not, that's a lot bigger of a gap where you can get it off to a guy like Quinn Hughes, get it off to Filip Hronek, get it off to Petey, where there's some separation and the defense hasn't reacted as quickly as far as just coming in on an offensive forecheck attack. But if you can get those quick face-off wins, whether it's in the defensive zone to keep possession and not have them get a scoring chance, or in the offensive zone where you can get a quick draw win, no one near you on an island of your own to get a wide open lane shot at the net, that's something that Vancouver definitely needs to look at. But what do you guys think about the list of the free agents? Which one of these guys would you want to see the Canucks go after? And if it's not a UFA or RFA, which player would you like to see the Canucks go out and trade for at the center position to bolster down this depth even more so? Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments, and let us know what you guys want to see as far as a list of possible replacements for Rick Tocchet. We're going to be cooking up a video on that very soon, so stay tuned for that, and let us know what coaches you want to see come to Vancouver as Tocchet's replacement. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.